No, but you've been doing some eating, haven't you?
I'll take you on at sit-ups if you want, no problem.
Oh, yeah, I'd murder you.
I'll tell you, he's calmed down a lot, hasn't he? He's not as daft as he used to be.
Gordon, send Lowerhouse to save the house. Come on, the house!
Right, good evening all. We're well into these podcasts. It seems we're doing about 3 or 4 a day just now with all sorts of different celebrity guests and guests that we didn't expect. And Adam's working his nuts off getting them. Tonight we've got a fantastic guest on. I'm really looking forward to having a chat with him. I've known him for donkey's years in all sorts of other formats. We've had some great times together. And I listened to the Gary Morehouse podcast the other day, and it always seems to be that, oh, this is fantastic, this is outstanding, this is great. But it is, you know, to talk about these memories. We don't talk about shit times or what was bad and, oh, crikey, that were a difficult time. Let's just, you know, we talk about what's funny, what are great memories about really good friends and really good family. So I'll introduce you to the guest in a minute. He struggles with technology, does this lad, so he's just dialing in now. I think he's on some sort of, I think they're an ISDN something that he's trying to dial in on, but I'm sure Joe Martin will get him in there because there is a bit of a connection. So anyway, Joe Martin, what have you been up to since yesterday when we had our last pod?
So since yesterday, I've done the exact same thing. So I've been running and I've read a little bit. Not a great deal.
I'm watching Michael Jordan on Netflix. The Last Dance is brilliant.
It's such a good documentary. Good. It's absolutely really fantastic. Jez, I know nothing about basketball, but it's a captivating viewing, I think, isn't it, Joe?
I mean, he didn't ask you, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is very good. You don't really need to be a basketball fan to enjoy it. It's very good.
Brilliant. There has been some great reports about it. I haven't got Netflix. I can't afford Netflix now. I'm a pensioner. I'm just wondering, Joe Martin, will you give me your password to get in? He weren't listening then. He just shoveled something in his mouth.
Sorry, Jez. I'm having some sausages.
Move on to our guest tonight. It's an individual who I've played a lot of football with. I've played a lot of cricket with. In different clubs, obviously not any clubs outside the Lancashire League because we both played at Lowerhouse. I'd like to introduce this evening to the one and only Ian Sheridan. Cheers, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Everything's fine and dandy. I couldn't help noticing in the introduction that Joe said he's not interested in basketball. Well, he can't reach. He's a Charlie Drake's double. We can think about being on basketball.
Yes, we could bully him a little bit here. If they put themselves on each other's shoulders, they'd just about be able to reach the net, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, the crossbar.
All right, Grandad, shut up.
I mean, I could just imagine me and Joe going to the shops on each other's shoulders with a Big Mac on, trying to get in.
He'd be eating a Big Mac just like he shoved that chocolate brownie on his face.
We always have this little bit of a chat at the start of the podcast. Difficult times at the moment. What's happening out there and how difficult it is to socialise with your friends and everything. How are you going on with the lockdown? I understand you are still working. So how's it going for you personally?
It's very difficult because I've a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old here. I've done full lockdown, to be fair to them, which, as you know and I know, Jez, that if me and you would have been 22 and 21 respectively, we wouldn't have been getting locked down. My wife's at home. My dogs are well walked. My fence is painted, not by me. My decking's varnished, not by me. And the garden's sorted, not by me. Being so good with my hands, the only thing that I'm allowed to do is pick things up and put things down.
Shez, I mean, we play cricket together really, really young. It's good for us for me and the two Joes, and I think it'd be good to briefly explain about how you developed into the cricketer, that you were.
Cricket, where do I start? But my dad and his mate, Tony Hutchinson, bless them, they've both gone. They're both Lowerhouse members. Tony passed away last year, bless him. Decided one night when they were in Dean's club, was Burko Dean's social club. My dad and all his mates were members there. Times went hard for Dean's social club in the 70s and 80s because one evening the winning a house at bingo was a pie. A week later, it were half a pie. Anyway, they decided they were gonna go and play up Townley because it'd get them out of the wives' air. It'd get me and O'Neill and Andrew and Catherine out of Anne's air. So Tony said, "Right, well, I'll walk past your house at 12:30. We'll walk up Cogway and Jez, through Parklands, up Moreland Road, down Moseley Road, through Townley, and we went to we started playing up Townley for Parkside. They were great days, and of course, as I got older, I can remember Tony hitting people for six on. Well, they didn't have sixes on time. They did. They remember all run fours. I chased a few of them and got it for a few of them. I remember. There's like that, but that's another story. Anyway, we used to go there, and then I went to Ivy Bank, played for Ardgiclough and all that lot. But cricket had bit me by then, and as you know, Jez, in them days, and all four of us know in them days, or now, cricket's a game for everybody to play. I wasn't very good. I just loved playing, and I was friends with the Bushells. Now, influencers like that, they used to play cricket on their back street. Alan, bless him, used to bowl to us. John used to bat all the time. Graham used to bowl to us. John still used to bat all the time. And then playing with Paul Kay, Gary Fletcher, on Cherry Fowl with the Spencers, because they lived on Bristol Street. We all decided one day that we go down Lowerhouse, and it rained. And I think you'd have been there, Jez, because your dad were there, and it was just called off. It will wash out. This is like middle of 70s. So the Spencers went to Burnley for some reason, and John Bushell was at Burnley, so I went there. Again, I'd never watched a Lancashire League game. Joe Fletcher used to coach people. What an absolute legend, nice chap that fellow was. And from then, I made friends with Stuart Higgins, and Stuart said, "Come on, well, in them days we all used to play on field, didn't we? There were, like Wednesday nights, there were loads of us on fields, and you get into under 13s who were managed by Steve Whitehead. That's just to take you back, Jez. Me, Darren Taylor, Steve Monkhouse, Stuart Higgins, Shane Higgins, your Nicky. Summer of 76, 77, which were dry summers. And again, it just bit you, didn't it? Everything. And obviously, you were football. You were an apprentice by, or just about to start leaving school by then. Your dad had the famous red Marina that we all knew and loved. Or your mum had it, or you had it, or whoever had it. I saw one the other week, and it went on from there. So you had people like Moinder Amanath, who were pro, I think, about then. And he was such a nice fellow. He really is such a nice fellow, when he'd come and play with you on there, and he'd bowl at you, and generally, because he was Jimmy, but I think he might not have been married then, but he lived at Kevin's, didn't he? If you remember. From there, I played school cricket, and Mel Saunders, as you knew, as you both, well, all three, you know, every now and again I produced that unbelievable delivery. You don't have to often. Mel saw something and encouraged me to play. So I played for school, and Jez, the main thing then as a 13 and 14-year-old was to get in third team. And who run the third team? Arthur Greenwood, Rule Reef, Herbert Marsden. Now, Nicky has fond memories about playing in the third team, because one of his early games, Nicky was younger than me but had more ability. The first cricketer I ever saw Nicky playing as a junior for Christ the King on St Andrews, who bowled and batted everything. Bowled all overs, batted all the time. big red rag that his dad had given him, covered in shoe polish, of course. Big bomber. And now Nicky got in thirds young. Jez were already in thirds, because at that time they bought a load of St. Peter's stuff, loads of it. St. Peter's had gone bust. They sponsored Tony Gregg. They'd gone bust, and they brought these bats. What were the bat that you had? The good one. They brought one good bat out. It weren't a caravel. That were county. That's a further story about Duncan Hall. Anyway, Jez had these pads, but they were blue, so they painted them white. This is all, and to get these light pads, because we had canvas ones and things like that, and the kit bags were heavy and all that. But Nicky had got in third team, playing with Rule and that, but he played. I think he made his debut or played early at Chatburn, Jesse, if you remember.
Yeah, I do.
Now Chatburn is a bit like Canterbury. You know, Canterbury has a beautiful oak tree in the field. Well, Chatburn has a telegraph pole. So Nicky's, Arthur's, and there's a number of stories about Arthur Greenwood. I'm just putting an asterisk as I tick them off. And this one, in Nicky's fielding, they hit the ball, it hits the wire on the telegraph pole, lands on it, hits him on head. That was the stuff that went on in the third team. Arthur was once batting. He was a lovely man, Arthur Greenwood, and I'm not calling him, I'm not taking the mick out of him, because I wouldn't do that, but this was just stuff that as a child we laughed at. So we all used to laugh about putting a box on and things like that, and he'd put his box on, because Rule used to tell these tales, and he got it in nuts, and one of his testicles had dropped outside at box and nearly castrated him. Oh, you should have seen his body, said Rule. Rule Reed for another one. And then Herbert, bless Herbert. Herbert was once a good one. Local league, good one, Herbert. You can tell, if you remember, Jez, could bat, could bowl. But Herbert had a problem, didn't he, Jez? He was deaf as a doorpost. So it were either 4 or 2. There were no ones.
Yeah.
And then Chris Whitehead called him a deaf get, didn't he, uptime with playing for Lowerhouse Casuals, and for one and only time he put batteries in his ear and heard him.
Yeah. I mean, just put a bit of context to that. That was the first team the Crete, Lowerhouse had. Yeah. And will have been, I was probably the oldest of us before Chris and Graham Young played. So it would have been 78, 79, and they went into, I don't know what it was called, the East Lancs League, or it was some leagues that had been going for quite a while, but it was all village cricket, proper village. And again, I've thought a lot about this, Joe, about, we didn't evolve, we just look at. That was the first start of the evolution, is that the right way of putting it? I don't know. The club created a third team, because there wasn't one before. There wasn't a third team. And we had these 3 blokes who come from local, midweek cricket, and then there used to be local cricket at weekends, and they volunteered to take on 8 idiots like me and Shep and Nicky, and Craig Eaton played in it, Whitehead, and these
Anthony Eaton, not Craig.
Living his brother, wasn't it, Anthony?
Yeah.
But they were just so dedicated. But it was quite, and I'll never forget it, it was time cricket. Proper old-fashioned time cricket. No points for getting close to the score. If you were rich like we were, we always got asked to bowl. The opposition would get, and we had to bat out 30 overs. And can you remember, Shez, I used to bat for
6 not out. 6 not out.
Yeah.
And you come off to a round of applause.
Yeah, you get cheered off the pitch. Stories there, Shez. Again, we could have a full podcast about the 3 of them. They were fantastic.
They were just salt. They were just salt of the earth, weren't they? And they give up the time for us. And I can remember, I thought I'd made it. I got picked for the third team at the end of the season. I got all my stuff together. Obviously, I were out of school, and I have to confess, I was hard work then. I was harder work than I am now. I was hyperactive. Everything's 1,000 miles an hour. And I'm checking my stuff, arguing with my mum, and I have to walk it to the club. I get there, and I field third man and fine leg for 50 overs. I'm batting number 11 and didn't get a ball. And Arthur said to me, he said, sorry, I couldn't bat you, I couldn't bowl you. He said, it's all right, Arthur, I'm just glad I played. But we lost. We lost. And they played right up, do you remember where the old practice wickets were? You played right at bottom at square.
Yeah.
And in those days, the field, but this was just before the Alan Alden revolution. This was towards the end of the 70s, where Alan, bless him, and Jonesy and all that lot played. Because you remember him, what recall from Paddy and captain Peter. And they used to throw it in wrong. Peter Wade used to throw it in. Used to look one direction and throw it in other.
It weren't challenging.
and these people played hundreds of games in the Lancashire League, and then Lowerhouse came bottom of the league regularly. Out of sight, bottom of the league with players. If you speak to Iggy can tell some. Well, they take ages, but Iggy's tales about playing people and things like that. And it were weird because I like playing football, I like playing golf, but every time cricket season finished, I was gutted and I were ready to go. So comes the time where I'm getting to 13 and 14, and I'm waiting for the cricket nets to start, and they started in January. So in other words, you played from January to end of September in Burnley, and the nets to your demise, Jez, you know that batting in there could sometimes be dangerous when you got to keep face off Simon Payne.
Yeah,
first one of the only times he nearly hit back at net, did Simon. We started again, and it were about this time that I were at my most annoying, because I thought that I were better than I were. I were playing for school, and so I decided to and go and join Burnley Cricket Club. You can't say things are regrettable because you're young and foolish and you make mistakes, don't you? But I lasted a season there because I did realise that I was rubbish. I didn't get it. I was just about getting it third team. Jack Stott because Jack Stott is a Lowerhouse legend and who got a lot of wickets for Lowerhouse when in his pomp. He was the captain. But Duncan, bless him, Duncan Hall, who lived at Kev Higgins, he lived on, what street's it called that, Jez? I forgot. Hollyoak Street, no.
No, Thornhill.
Thornhill Street, yeah. And I had to go and apologise to Duncan. Anyway, I'm back at the club then, and I'm 16, and it's back to normal. But in that period of time, they'd had more in their Amanaf, and they'd started being a better team. They had Nazim Ulgani, that's a rape from the grave, Jez. Yeah. And then players like Dave Keeley, Phil came back from Manchester because he was a pro over there, if you remember. Yeah. And Graham Bushell left Burnley. He'd had a row with Roland Harrison over the batting order, I think, something like that. And Neil Worley had left then. He'd gone to Bacup because that great Burnley team from 79 up until 80, who were still a force, but they'd taken play as they wanted to become stronger and stronger. They took players from other teams, Steve G, Trevor Jones from Lowerhouse, which caused a load of bother. I don't know what went on. I'm sure you know better than I do, Jez, what went on with Steve and Trevor. I always got on with a pair of them. Trevor helped me immensely, and Lowerhouse had then under Alan Alden. Who was the pro when they won the Allen Cup, Jez? It was Evan Gray, wasn't it? Yeah. They then, as I'm getting into me 16, 17, 18, they started to become a force, and they nearly won the league at Rottenstall. That were a strange day, if you remember. Yeah, I do. The cricket had bit me. As an aside, an example of how the club came forward, because Jez's dad encouraged people to come down to the club. You didn't know it at the time, but you can see it all these years later. His dad encouraged people. He'd drop people off and things like that, and assist people and stuff like that, because he loved the cricket, and he wanted his voice to play cricket, fair enough. If you remember, there was one occasion where Dave Binns went from first team to sub for third team in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, I know that David has a sense of humour, but even he had the piss took out of him by Roger Bromley for that. So we'd then become, the club had become a better place to be in, weren't it? And we were getting like late teens and things like this. And it was just a fantastic place to play. You had John Hartley playing for us, Dave Keeley, who got 300 runs and stuff like that one of those seasons, and got to Worsley Cup final. That were another. But we had Worsley Cup final, Jez. We played it third team.
Yeah.
We didn't go to it first. We had to play at 13. They wouldn't let us go because they had a fixture and wouldn't let us go to the final when it rained off. So that's my opening gambit. That's how much I enjoyed it. That's what I started with. I'm sure that there's things you want to talk about through that period of time.
There were shares. You came into that period where it was a big change, and I do think we were getting a little bit, better than they had been donkey's years before. And I don't know the answer to some of those things about the likes of, Stephen G were a great cricketer, Trevor Jones, and obviously Higger, carried on playing for Lowerhouse, and then you got Graham Bushell and John Hartley. John Hartley would, I think, he's on a par with Johnny Harvey, or he's probably better.
Oh yeah.
Your players are fantastic. Probably not just good enough to pro as a good pro in the Lancashire League, but Steve Deere in the first team. But yeah, they were all fantastic times, Shez, there. So we moved in, into senior cricket, me and you, and a lot of other people around us, and we had a big group there. We had a big, it's a little bit like we talked the other day about Ducha's group of people with Charlie and everyone else there. A big group of people came through. But a big group of us there with the Higgins and Whiteheads and Hawks, and Sheridans, and and your elder brother played in the first team. Michael played in the first team. Now we've got Paddy and Joe playing. It's all exactly what your dad, my dad, Jack Hayes, and more, near would want us to want. That's the way they would want the club to go. So, what's your first memories of getting into the second team and and getting some runs or getting some wickets and holding your own in the second team, Shez?
I couldn't bat. I got in the second team because, again, Stan, bless him, who was a big influence on me, took me under his wing like he did with you. And Stan, being so friendly, albeit we're going to take mick out of him in a bit, would do anything. But but he had the, what is it, didn't he? He had the Vauxhall Viva Corrado that when he were at university, he knackered one wing, then did other, and he'd say he'd pick you up. So bear in mind, you started up Townley at 6:30, and he'd be at my house at Colclough Lane at 7:25 for every game. So we were late for every game.
That's out of order, Shez. People, you cannot be late for games.
No, if you're relying on someone to get you to a game on time and they let you down, then that's the worst of the worst, in my opinion. Carry on, Shez.
They picked me, and I got in the seconds, and that season to 83. I don't know what I did in 82. I played 3rd teams in 82. I got in seconds, I think, when I was 17, and I might have got some wickets. I think I got some wickets. I think it was a wet summer, and I think I got some wickets. I got 6 for against East Lancs, and if you remember, Opie, I swore at Alan Stothers in the dressing room, and good job he were at the other side of the dressing room because he said he was going to tear me limb from limb, so I had to run out through showers. And really, really apologised to him for ages and ages and ages afterwards. But Pete Gaynor came. Pete Gaynor, people forget what a good player, second team. Struck you 15th first team, Pete.
Yeah.
What a good player Pete were to come from Belvedere. And in them those days, if you had a car, etc., you would gold us because you could take your players to games. And so we played that season. Jez was just on brink of the first team. His football took over a little bit, but his struggle with Alan Holding started round about that time. Nothing horrible or anything like that. I was just a young man trying to get into a cricket team that was full of stars. and it was tough to get in. And you know, did Brom, bless him, Brom, Roger Bromley. Let's talk about his injuries. Do you remember that time he were off for a week? I've tweaked my thigh.
Yeah.
He'd get injured opening a bloody bag of crisps, wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't he?
It was Roger. We discussed it on an episode. He's a really good friend of mine. He really looked after him. And I'd like to get him on the podcast.
Get him on.
Got scarred by, you know, pros always wanted to bowl with the wind, with the slope, you know, with the advantage. You struggle with it. But, you know, Selavi, what a top lad and what a great bowler he was.
Fantastic. So, Jeff saying to me, stop trying to bowl too fast, Jez. Stop trying to bowl too fast. Just concentrate on swinging it because you'll get loads and loads of people out. Yeah. And Jez then, his action were different than it was when he became successful at bowling. He changed it. It became a lot more fluid. And he did it, and he'd learned that his left leg needed to be braced and get over that left leg, and that's where you get your bit of pace from. But Jeff were trying to turn me into a swing bowler, but I was too stupid and naive to listen because they didn't tell us about how to play against people. They didn't tell us that Tripp was a leg side player and would do everything he could to hit your leg side. So ball leg side is off stumping it and you'll get him, or set a field to get him. They didn't say anything like that. They didn't tell you how to bowl Yorkers. They didn't tell you, but we got Bill Holt, and Bill, bless him, who was a good player, played for Lancashire. He tried to coach us, but I think we were a tiny little bit old. We're 18 now. I've got to allude to Davros at this point. We had a captain called Peter Maudsley, who passed away last year or the year before. The influence Peter had on me is unbelievable. I cannot thank that fella for putting up with me and bowling me when he shouldn't have done so much. He was just an absolute star with Peter. And I didn't know, and Jez will, that Peter played in the first team, but was a big man, massive man, and broke his leg fielding. And of course, lost loads and loads of weight and was very, very thin. Ever then. But he was typical Manchester bloke, weren't he? All noise. Great fella. You know, and he'd captain it. He played cricket properly. He played hard. He played to win. He didn't like losing. He wasn't the best cricketer the world's ever seen by his own admission. But there's a couple of tales. I didn't play in this game, but they played away at church and they bowled 8 ball overs. Lowerhouse have got a load of runs. You're 17, 18. Jez is 17, 18. He gets some runs. They get a load of runs. Nice day at church, but it's at bottom at square. And Peter gets to end. Nothing can go wrong here. They need 32 off last over. They fucking got them. So the week later they play at Bay Cup, which Peter used to call the Wall of Death. And we've all played at Bay Cup, we all know what it means. The bowling green on the Wall of Death, and we always used to get first game of the season. Bay Cup, Lowerhouse will play Bay Cup at Lowerhouse, so that means us. We're away at Wall of Death, freezing, and we'll come on to that tale later. Anyway, he makes an announcement before the game that after last week, this will be my last week as captain. I've had enough, stuff like that. Lowerhouse go out, score 290, win game, changes his mind after the game. We had him for another 6 years. Des Hope got 100, just to show how much he loved him. Anyway, so Peter, he'd bully you. So you got Darren Taylor, wicketkeeper. Duncan Hall fielded permanently at third man and fine leg because if his fetlock went, which he did in the first team game, got 50 and didn't field because fetlock had gone. But you ask your Nicky about Duncan Hall. He thought Duncan Hall were a great player. He was a massive Duncan Hall. He was a massive bloke. He was a metallurgist, worked at Lucas. But he had. Do you remember, Jez, that square drive that he used to play? He put his big leg down, smash it. But Blaise by now turned up. Blaise were 13 and 14. So that season, we played well and played Nelson in a cup semi-final at Lowerhouse. That day, in those days, you'd struggle to get 190. If you got 190, you were absolutely ecstatic because the wickets were slow, they were low, So there was no pace in them. You couldn't force the ball. You couldn't play. And Richard Vaughan opened batting for their seconds, and I had him he must have played and missed at me about 70 times because they were all coming out. Put a bell on it, blah blah blah. Throw him a piano, all stand, got him off and touch line. No, that was when he had his did he have his appendix out or his balls done when he said, if I feel as weak as a kitten, and someone said, you want a saucer of milk? And Paul Garrity, who I've got to say is probably one of the best batters ever in Lancashire League, and I have my problems with Paul, and I have since apologised and made things up with him. I know that he still thinks I'm a tosser, but that's fair enough, and I deserve all the get me Paul, because he was a good footballer as well. He came in, and if you remember, Jez, it's a long time ago, he was smashing it, and he were taking ones to you from non-strikers end. Anyway, Omi ran him out. What's he called? But that way you run up to ball and knock him out. Yeah, he did it, and Jez to this day don't agree with that happening, and neither did Jeff. But we get to the final. Now, the build-up to the final goes like this. It's been all right, the season. The day that it's played, the final, it absolutely lashes it down. We get it at our place, and we've picked the strongest team. It pours down, and Jez walks up to Peter and says, I can't play in the game. I'm going on holiday with Trish. So he couldn't play in this final. I've been on holiday. It's July holidays when they play it. And the day comes, it's absolutely cracking the flags that day. And they'd, what were he called? The ginger hair that played for Ramsbottom, Jez, first team, John Ashworth.
John Ashworth.
Yeah, he were in their team, and Davros went mad before game. He said he's played first team last week, and he's played too many first team games. Blah blah blah. So there's a big, massive row before game. We win toss, and Omi gets 50, Bush gets 30 odd, Alan got a few, but Jez didn't play in this game, and we limped to 160, 170 all out, something like that. It were half time. We were doing as normal things, talking about papers and talking about birds and talking about anything apart from how we're going to beat Ramsbottom in the Junior Cup final. So Brom comes up to me and he says, "You're opening me a new ball, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You never bowled me a new ball, have you?" I said, "Well, I have at school." I said, "But that's a long time ago." He said, "You never opened in this with a new ball, have you?" He says, "Get yourself concentrating. Get yourself concentrating." He said, "Bite your arms. Get yourself fired up. Get yourself fired up." So I do it and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, what are you on about? I know you're my mate. And because he was, by this time, because I were a punk and Jez were a punk and all that, like, you were my mate. And so he's saying all this, and you can still do this. And even I didn't believe it. And we travel out, we go outside, and what we used to do, we used to get Davros all the time. What used to happen is, umpires used to run out and drop a ball for you to throw for catching practice. So Davros used to run and pick it up, and every time we'd stand back, so he'd be like, "Hey," we'd all be still waiting to get off field. He's like a dick. So we did him again. He goes, right, says, "You're not bowling from this end." And
so just hang on, you got him with that in a cup final, did you? You pulled that one in a cup final?
Of course we did.
Yeah.
Of course we did.
Fair enough.
Joe, you know, and our annoyed I used to get at Gav and Stanley. Well, that's what Peter used to be like. So he throws me a new ball, and I can remember new ball. They were expensive balls, a bit like mine. They were, but it was like a mottled sort of varnish. Because Brom had said to me, if you can't grip ball because you're sweating, grip it across seam. Anyway, so to this day I can remember it. I can see the crowd because it were a biggish one, and I can see their opening batter, blonde hair, big glasses, and I can see two slits of a gully, Blaise and John Bush and Omi and all that lot, because Omi bowled from other end, but they give me a new ball. And lo and behold, third ball, I bowl this lad with a massive swinging full toss, middle stump, right out at ground. And Darren Taylor runs up to me and says, "You bowled me a full toss." And I bowled another one next over, end it over, another one next over. So they were none for three. It's surreal. Duncan Hall took a catch for me to get 5 wickets, diving full length at 4 slip, one-handed. It was surreal. It was surreal. That picture of us all, we couldn't even get Peter on his shoulders. We were that young and stupid. And I got 5 wickets and I got £27.50 for my collection, which take it to go back to 1983. That was a lot of money. It was a week's wage for me then. I can remember Graham, your dad watched Joseph. Your dad watched it and drove back up in his Fiat 127 to get me dad. But game were over. Anyway, the game's finished and we all get pissed and we all have a laugh and we're really happy and things like that. I were working on the Tuesday, and the Burnley Express used to do an edition on Tuesday and Friday. And I can remember I was making PVC windows, and Len Ashworth says, "You've got a great opportunity to cricket, you if you stick to it." Jimmy McIlroy's written, and he played football with my dad, so he's written this wonderful thing about me. A firm future in cricket, shows he knew nothing about football, because I knew that he'd been playing golf, and I saw him walk into score box just at the end of the game and write it down off the scorecard. Lying bastard. That sort of catapulted me into the stratosphere. Evan Gray said, another one who knew nothing about cricket, clearly, because he said that you've got a longer career in first team. How wrong he was. I proved everybody wrong. He said to John Bushell, you'll play county cricket, because I think, Jez, to be fair, at that time, I think that was just about the time he just went off the boil with girlfriends and things like that. But we had a good laugh with John Bushell. It bothers me, and I'm going to speak to him about it, that he's for some reason not quite as friendly with our club as he used to be, which I find very disappointing. So that was ace. It was fabulous. Cricket season finished, football season played, and I'm playing for Grammar School Old Boys. We used to play against them. Jez were better player than me, but the Grammar School Old Boys played Corinthian. Do you know what I mean? You play up time for Grammar School Old Boys. You run trip out, and they'd let him bat on. We hadn't crossed and stuff like that, and all things that you wouldn't believe what went on up there. I injured myself. I got injured right at the start of the next season, 1984. I tore ligaments in my ankle, and I don't really think as a bowler I was same after that. And then that was it, really. I had my opportunity. I enjoyed it, really. I enjoyed playing. I just, after that, I just thought, with retrospect, albeit I played a lot. With hindsight, I think I probably would just make it numbers up, really, if I'm honest. But nonetheless, I made numbers up a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot, Shez. I think you're possibly doing yourself down a little bit there. From the second team of a good second team, and you could, on the right surface at the right time, you had some pace. And you did work hard at your game. You did listen to people, and it was. I don't think you've got any regrets from what you said then.
There's better players than me that haven't played in the first team.
Yeah, exactly right. But you've done it, and no one can take that away. So all credit to you. So then I want to talk about then you've progressed and you start getting in the first team, and then me and you play a little bit of cricket for the police in some interesting game, top players. Joe Martin is, Shez's rise from junior cricket up to senior cricket. Have you any observations? For those who don't know, it's Ian is Joe's uncle, or sometimes Joe calls him my mad uncle. Have you any observations about that, Joe?
It seems to me, I have a lot of conversations with my uncle Ian on a weekly basis. They are on a variety of topics. My only observation would be that if Shez had probably have played now, or if he'd been 14 or 15 now, he would have benefited from a lot of coaching and stuff. And
yes,
who knows?
Perhaps.
I agree, little Joe. I do think that, but and I don't know the best way of putting this really, because I don't want to make it sound like we had it tough or we had. Not the opportunities that the new players have, or Joe Martin and the likes have, because Stan alludes to that a lot. But we were coming into a club that was just about developing, and and we would, Roger Bromley and Lofty and other players would take us for a pint when we were 16, 17, 18, and it wasn't all about where you guys now are. It is about let's get fit, let's work out what our strengths are. We were very much, it was still part social club, young fit lads and enjoying it. So I do agree with you there, Joe. Different circumstances, who knows what would have happened with Shez, because he'd certainly got the ability and, the technique was there. without a doubt. Dooch, have you any observations about Shed?
No, I have, but I want to come in a bit later when I sort of started playing cricket with Shez a bit later on in his career. So I'll chirp up then.
Okay. So Shez, you made your debut in 1984 against Nelson at home. Can you remember it?
Yeah. Iggy captained.
Right.
Curtie was pro. I forgot who pro for Nelson was. Tell me who pro for Nelson was, Jez.
It was.
Noel Goochard.
Noel Goochard. Oh, right. Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you about that tale.
Terry Hunt.
Yeah, Terry Hunt.
Terry Hunt, the very fast. It's end of the season. It's lashed it down a day before, and with no pro. Stan's captaincy was good, but he took over a good side that was failing, and he had to turn it round, and it was very difficult for him, bless him. We tip up, loose toss, and Ian Clarkson gets 70-odd. Andy Mack got 7 for, Jez?
6 for 53.
6 for 53 on what is probably best described as a sponge on a slate. Shane Higgins played. Peter Cockle played for Nelson, Ian Clarkson, and obviously Terry Hunt. Now, Terry was a good one. So we get Noel Goochard, who comes and bowls from the pavilion end and gets done for 60-odd off 12 overs. They get a modest total, whatever. We all troop back into dressing rooms. Shez, you're number 11, thanks. Iggy's opening with whoever he were opening with. Probably Noel Goochard, who got it at face, third ball, right under eye. Yeah, that was the classic Stan. I'm not going to swear. Someone's going to get killed out there. Noel Blessing gets it at face, third ball.
Yeah.
Off Terry Hunt, quick ball, flies off a length, hits him full in face. Did you play in that game, Jez?
No, the reason I remember it is because I don't know if I was captain up Belvedere or whatever, but I had to go. Yeah. Dan proper fell out with me because I decided to play football rather than playing this end of season game. But I do believe, Shez, and it's up to you how you tell this story.
It's true. Oh, I know it.
One of our amateurs wouldn't go out to bat.
With me?
No, is it? But I wasn't there, so I
remind me who it was.
I think it was Walt. And so he said, well, he's going to kill someone out there. I said, I don't fancy going out to bat against him.
Well, he did, but he battered. It was Stan walking around dressing room because he'd sent Shane Higgins, who he'd seen grown up from a child, out, and Terry Hunt was sharp that day. But in a loss, I come out to bat, and Roger's other end, and he comes to me, mate, and he said, "It's lethal out here. Don't expect to last long." So I obliged him by standing right in front and getting it halfway up my pad by Peter Cockle, who said, "For fuck's sake, Shez, that would knock all 3 out." And they gave me nod out. I nearly started arguing with umpire. Brom, bless him, got castled next ball. we were hugging walking off. It was absolutely, and that was Iggy at his best. Yeah, or someone's going to get killed out there, definitely. It was like the Goose Green one, weren't it, at Bakel? Yeah. Like Goose Green out there, Lofty. Just checking you back, Jez. We forgot a good tale about that lot. A few years before, they played Aslington last game of the season. Aslington were going to win. They had Mick Malone as pro, and they won Holland Cup. 10 minutes before, half an hour before game, no captain, no Tom Sullivan, no Rusty. 10 minutes before game, no captain. They have to tell him, listen, you're gonna have to bat. I said, why? Because 3 of us players not turned up. We don't know where they are. Captain's one of them. Yeah. 20 minutes past 2, they turn up. Whatever time they turn up. Where have you been? So well, we met at Parkview and had a pint. Said right, yeah. And then we were driving over, and we were just driving past Wagoners, and I were reading paper, and Lofty says, "Where have you got that paper from?" He said it was down there. They got it wrong car. Yeah. I had to drive back to Parkview. Anyway, debut was then followed by another period in the wilderness, because Curtie was a complex guy, unbelievably talented. I've never seen anybody hit a cricket ball as far. You played in the 7-a-side game at Todd, I think, Jez, didn't you?
Yeah.
Where he drank a bottle of whiskey and got 138 not out in one of the games or something like that, smashing people into oblivion. He's the only person that I've ever seen hit it from nets, where near Pavilion, onto terracing at far side. Unbelievable. Curtie was always a challenge, shall we say, and he was all for himself, which he had to be, and that's fair enough. I have no problem with that. Because he was a successful pro for us, he was a very, very good player. But sometimes he wasn't great for your morale if you were young. I think I played a game against Enfield where Curtie was pro, Brombold were off soon. Who is it? Captain Iggy was captain, so he got Curtie on straight away because Brian was like that. And Curtie was a good player, so you're going to use your best player, aren't you? Fair enough. And Curtie asked me to field. Will you field at short leg? Jesus, no hat, no box, no fielding short leg with Curtie bowling leg side. Nice. I didn't bat, I didn't bowl, and I fielded at short leg in that game. Again, didn't stifle my love for playing cricket, but I just, for some reason, I'd started being able to bat. I started being able to get runs. It was weird. Something clicked. Blaise had started doing fantastic. Jez were it for steam more often than not. Bush had gone. He'd gone playing in Ribblesdale League. And I just started being able to bat. They said, I got 50 on Jez's wedding day. At Rishton, Duncan all had said, and I got 50 that day. I started getting in teams for batting and doing a bit of bowling. So I turned into a sort of a bit like Joe is now an all-rounder.
Yeah, we got it.
It's funny twice though. and I got it first team at the beginning of probably 84 season.
85, you played a couple of games and bowled.
I got a wicket, my one and only wicket.
Yeah.
Well,
Fielding caught Scott Ball Sheridan.
I'm going to come on
I
to
only
that.
lasted another ball. Then I had to go off.
So then 86 and then onwards to 87 to 88, you came in the first team and batted at 6 and 7. Todmorden at home. Who was your first wicket?
Fielding, caught Scott, Ball Sheridan, 1. And then fiddling. And the other batter was the pro that you got on with, that you thought were a good one, Darryl Scott. Anyway, yeah. I tried too hard and strained me back. I didn't warm up properly. It was a wet day, called it Live Aid that day. So I watched Live Aid. On the bench in the dressing room, feeling sorry for myself, watching Freddie Mercury absolutely dazzle him. Did we win? I can't remember there being much apart from watching Duran Duran in the clubhouse.
Duran were in clubhouse.
Yeah, they were very good. Talking about the clubhouse, we can't talk through this conversation without mentioning Jack Hayes. Jack loved me and Jez. He thought we were great. And there's 2 stories of Jack that are very amusing. There's one when they play in Burnley in 70s or something like that, and it's absolutely 10 deep at the bar, if you remember it. And there's this fella shouting, Jack! And he's ignoring him as Jack because he's working behind bar. He were crammed when he were happy with Jack. And this fella, Jack! He shouted. He said, what's the news? There's a crack it under the glass. And then his all-time classic, which is the funniest thing ever. Stan's mum, lovely lady, Peggy Eaton. Every Monday, she used to clean the ladies' toilets. But anyway, this day, Jack's there on his own. He's obviously had to bloat and won't go in the gents' toilets because they weren't great. Goes in ladies. And next thing he's thinking, oh, bollocks, Peggy's here. Because what I've left in there is not great. Goes in, you can hear her going, says, Jack, there's a hell of a smell in that toilet. He said, Peggy, you're the last one in.
We were talking about the likes of Jack, which is fantastic. Again, we could do a full episode with Jack But let's just get back onto the cricketing days. You've got that Alan fiddling. I can't particularly remember him, but you've got him out early on, and you've got injured that game. Is that because we have a couple of stories about your preparation and your kit? The game when you bowled in those Puma trainers?
No. That was the season before under Dave Blizzard, where they were pony trainers. The Puma trainers were sold to you just before I went on holiday to Mallorca. That's another story where you were driving up and down Liverpool Road looking for me because I'd fell asleep on the benches outside the club because me, you, and somebody else got pissed, which was very amusing. And in that game, I was wearing Adidas spikes shoes with no socks.
Right. Okay.
I ain't warmed
Why?
up. Because we're a dick. Stupid dick.
Was there some question? Was there some thought behind it? You didn't do it because you'd forgot your socks. You intentionally did it.
Just being a dick. Just being stupid, and not realising until I got a bit older that you've had an ankle injury. Your action means that you land heavily on your right foot and your left foot slides because you bend your knee, because you don't go down, you're going forward, if you will. And you just are what you are. You're just thick. And again, no one then, until I got to the post office and Trevor Jones got hold of me, you were allowed to be as stupid as you were. Craig Eaton used to turn up thinking he was quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Thought he were him. He used to have headband around his neck. Bizarre.
It was Joe Gooch. It was a bit of a period there when, I think, I'm not saying it was just after the Second World War, but people were starting to become characters, and there were. And I must say, I was a little bit probably behind all that. My dad was. I didn't go out as much as other people when you're 14, 15 or 16. Nicky did a little bit more. But around
Nicky did a lot more.
But around that time, you were influenced a lot by people on telly, and there was 2 detectives who didn't wear socks.
Yeah. I always wanted to be a detective.
Yeah, bowling, no socks. So anyway, move through that. You play a few more games. I mean, there's nothing massively jumping out for me. I don't know if there's anything.
No. That's why I got dropped.
You played up to 1988, and then you didn't play for 6 years, but then you get back in for 2 games.
Police, Rottenstall at home and Bacup away, or the other way around. Rottenstall at home. Now then, Jeremy had, talking about injuries, had torn his hamstring. And he'll remember it. And you see, I've got a good memory, me. That's why I'm a crap copper. The fella that was doing his hamstring said to him, "This is one of the best tears I've ever seen. Look at the bruising there," as he's rubbing his leg with oil.
You have to put your finger.
Can I just go a bit further? Anyway, with Craig Light as pro, Craig Light, he comes, does Craig, and he's on a shoestring because this is the revolution. The revolution has took place. Jez has been the captain. They've paid a load of money for Pabauka, and they've decided Jez will concede was the most talented person in the world, but very difficult to captain, very selfish, very me, but a world-class performer when he wanted to be. I think we'll agree. So David got involved, who probably, it's fair to say, we can't say this way, who was a fantastic bloke who did a fantastic job and hauled the club. But Jez was partly responsible for that through his young captaincy and the way that he changed the mindset around the game, along with Nicky and things like that. Anyway, we get Craig Light. First game of the season, we play Ramsbottom away. I get 7 for 23, and Neil Worley claps me off the pitch. Graham Young had 5 catches behind. So I knew that I must have been playing all right, and we got through them games, and with a bit of a crisis, we come to July. Is it July?
12th of June.
12th of June. We're playing Rottenstall at home. By then, they've got Bevan playing, but boy, they're a poor team. Got some really poor players. Richard, who is it? We're opening bowling for him. So Jez is walking, limping round with me because I'm batting late at order, and we sit down, and Craig Light, who's got 137 not out in his first game against Ramsbottom at home, bats, and Jez says, he's a good player, is Craig Light, but what you've got to remember is he can't play shit bowling. Just as he runs down wicket and gets stumped by that bald-headed stumper. Third over. Yeah. And he says, "So you now see what I mean, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." Anyway, the innings goes from bad to worst. Nicky's captain, and it just disintegrates. Michael Bevan gets 5 wickets bowling that left arm crap that, you know what I mean? And 6 wickets, 7. Yeah, I one of them. Bottom bowled for one, and that were a miss. Reynolds comes in the dressing room afterwards and goes absolutely ballistic. At half time, not half time, he comes into the dressing room goes ballistic at us. We lose. And I bowled all right. Bevan edged me for 6 down to third man for 2. Because Blaise, as remembers, the only person who's got outside edge this year. I regretted that because he hit him in 3. Anyway, so we lost heavily. Nothing to do with wicket, just a really, really crap amateur performance.
So then the year after, for whatever reason, for the
game after, Jez. The game after we played Bear Cup. The week after.
Yeah, the day after, 1994, So what happened then?
Well, I think it's fair to say that I realised that I was a second team player. I always were going to be. Matt captain. Matt was captain. And they picked me again, and we got to play Bear Cup. Bear Cup are the best team in the league. Great wicketkeeper, great opening batter, great pro, great team. And we go with Craig Light, who's indifferent by now. He's got fed up. He's not doing very well. So we lose the toss, and it's absolutely freezing. So I'm thinking, I'm going to be cold out here today. Not forward thinking, and we didn't communicate. You didn't get Matt coming up and saying, right, I think you might be bowling today. Do you know what I mean? We didn't do that. All this talking about roles and things like that came later. So off we go onto the pitch. It's freezing, really cold day, and Stanley, the wanker, gets somebody out early doors, bowls him. Bowling from Bear Cup end. Worst thing he ever did, because in comes Roger Harper like a looking caged panther. And he walked past me. All right, Rog. I say, looking up to him, trying to hide and disguise myself.
Shez, why did you say, all right, Rog?
Hoping that he'd take pity on me. So he strides in. It takes him 6 strides to get from pavilion to wicket. Like I said, he's like a caged panther. He's got this big, massive smile on his face. His West Indies cap, his West Indies sweater, and I thought that's closest to Test cricket I'll ever get. Anyway, he then starts. Good players, when you see really, really, really good players, they make it look easy, and he starts taking ones. And who is it's batting at the other end? Thompson's batting at the other end. Remember him, Jesse? He would have been a top player, but he fell out with Bear Cup for 6 or 7 years in the 80s. Anyway, move on. And he's knocking ball about. Craig Light's getting so every bad ball's getting punished. And Matt says, Shez, we have a ball from pavilion end, from Bear Cup end. If you've ever heard words you don't want to hear, that with them, and they'll haunt me. They'll put them on my gravestone, but I'll get cremated, so it don't matter. Shez, will you bowl? Have a bowl. Well, to say Roger Harper couldn't smile wide enough is the biggest understatement in the world. It lit up, to be fair. My 2 overs went for a lot of runs. I think people in Bear Cup thought they were another air raid. It were just absolutely crap. Because I put 2 shirts on, 2 jumpers, a vest. So I could have been loose. I were hot, but I weren't loose. Matt says, are you warmed up and boiling? Yeah. Anyway, smashed into oblivion. Harper, they win league. I get dumbed out leg side, stumped out leg side. They win league. I trudge off, and that's my last game. I was not lost. I still had a lot of cricket left in me, but I knew that there were no first team cricket left in me. And to be honest with you, it had passed me by. I was a second team player. That's what I were. You can't put a fourth division player in Premier League or a league player and expect him to play Test cricket or any level of really senior cricket, because you're just not good enough, and you'll get found out, and that's what happened. I got found out and I got smashed all over. Don't regret it.
No, well, crikey, like Joe's team now, with the first team now, it's all right having 12, 14 good players. Are you saying, you're saying they're first team players, but you need people to replace them and to do jobs from time to time. And you did do jobs, so there's we just, if you look at the figures there, crikey, Ryan Esker's gone for less than 4 and over. Matt's gone for nearly 7. Craig Light's gone for about 5.5. Stanley's gone for 5. You've gone 3 overs, none for 25. So you weren't the only one that were getting back to back.
We got hammered.
Yeah, by 195 runs. So that's first team cricket, Shez. I've got to say we put out on Twitter and the forums for questions from people that want to come in or comment on the new guests. And everyone who's played with you have always said, you know, it's been a pleasure. You've always committed. You always try your nuts off, and it's always fun. Joe, you played quite a bit with Shez in seconds, didn't you? Joe, do?
I did, yeah, and it were a great experience. I've alluded to it previously, but for me as a 14, 15-year-old coming into a blokes team ran by Rusty, you know, it was a real eye-opener, but in a good way. But Shez really did look after me, picked me up and took me to games and stuff, which were great because I obviously lived at the other end of town and Shez were coming past my house, so he would always make sure I got to games. Not always on time, but we would always get to games. But there are just a few bits I want to throw at you, just see if you can remember a few names that I always look back on and smile. Terry Small. Yeah,
Shez, will you? I'm going to shop. Terry, do you want it from shop? Yeah. Will you get us a Kit Kat and a can of Coke? Well, if they haven't got it, just get us out. So I bought him a bottle of sterilised milk and a loaf. We played at Bearcup. I know that I said earlier that Bearcup with Roger Harper was quite, but I had some good times at Bearcup. I have to say, we won a lot and I had some good times. There was one time where Alan Southers battered all the game and must have got hit by Peter Fell 50 times. And Frank was shouting, "Get on with it!" and put his knickers up the flagpole. Southers were going to tear him in limb from him. Anyway, and then we played at Bearcup with Terry Small. I'm captain. It's a really hot day. Proc got 100. Really, really hot day. So Terry, who wasn't like the Adonis that I am, that caught the sun and stuff, is a weed from Bolton. Good player, lot of ability, but he had the spine of a jellyfish. I went toss. Anyway, whatever, we bat. And he sat outside the dressing room with no cream on, no nothing, no top. And I said, Terry, you do know you're going to burn if you sit there, don't you? I'll be all right. Naturally brown me, aren't I? 45 overs bastard later, he looked like he'd been painted red. He says, "Yes, I can't get my arms up." I said, "No, I know you can't get your arms up because you're a dick, aren't you?" Terry Small. What other stuff did he do? Well, he kept Iggy alive because he bowled those wonderful slow swingers and it gave Iggy a new lease of life. Iggy we're in his late 40s then. Iggy he got loads of victims off him. And to be fair to lad, he was talented. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? He was just mental. Completely. Do you remember the pie getting put under his seat cover? Yes, Tony Woodworth and you did that. I had nothing to do with it. I was far too... That was the same game. Was it really? Yeah, that was the same game. He put it under his... He turned up in his slippers, didn't he? And he had that seat cover on his car. Turned up and Woodworth and you put a pie under his thing. And you've never admitted it, but you did it. I know you did. I definitely didn't do it. So do you think it was Tony? Because when I asked him about it, I know it was Tony. Right, okay. Because when I asked him about it, he said, if I'd have had a pie, do you think I'd have put it under somebody's seat cover? That was his defence. Tony's lying. Tony's lying.
So in the second team, you know, there's been a couple of digs here about maybe being late for games or anything. And Shez, you picked Joe up. Joe, is there any evidence? On the morning of the game, Shez and I were both playing in the second 11. So we'd have been getting to the ground at whatever time, say 12:15. But what happened was on the morning of the game, somebody cried off. So I got called up to the first team. They sent Ryan Esketh back from Rishton to come and get me. Last minute job. He's expecting me to be at Lowerhouse at, 12:15. 12:20, not there. 12:25, not there. 12:30, not there. Just after 12:30, we get to the ground. Shez has been late picking me up, unfortunately. And I'm saying, Shez, I'm playing for Steam. I need to get over to Rishton. I'm panicking like mad because I'd only played like 3 or 4 games at this stage. Shez says, don't worry about it. Just tell them we broke down on way to the ground. There's no what you can do about it. Tell them we broke down. They'll swallow that. So Ryan comes back and gets me, takes me over to Rishton. 2 wheels into the car park. We get there like 5 or 10 minutes before the game. Jez sits me down in the changing room. Right, why are you late? What's happened? Well, Jez, you won't believe this, but we broke down on way to Lowerhouse. Like 4 seconds later, I was spilling my guts out for all to see. I didn't last more than 5 seconds. Shez were late. Sorry, Skip. Sorry, Jez. But all Shez's fault. Is there anything else from your second team days, Dooch?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Aslingdon.
Oh,
we
God.
played. We went through a spell of getting some absolute taterings by Haslingden. I know we got lost in a cup semi-final to them once when I'd dropped Mark Rothwell. I don't think it cost us game, but there you go.
Yeah,
but
he did.
there were
95. The scorebook. He got 95. He smashed us all over the show. Tit.
That's not what I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up that period of time when we went to Haslington away in middle of summer, lost toss every week, and Bobby Grimshaw and Crusher and people like that absolutely marmalised us every week. But what was that game when we were none for 4?
That was Pete Gainer's captaincy, and we lost the toss, and they got 275. We went to bat and out to bat, and good old Ian Cameron was playing, and as he charged him for his first ball, there goes Ted, middle stump, Yorker. In trolls Frank, players round 1, who has just been calling Gary Rishton a Blackburn bastard all day and having a right go at him. So he goes first ball with a send-off and then pretends to start fighting anybody. As you well know, lads, Frank can't fight his way out of a very, very wet paper bag. And I'm sat at my bat at the other end and told him so. Peter Gaynor strolls out. He goes second ball. And whoever comes in next goes out first ball. And I'm watching this from the other end of the field. Gav comes out to bat, and I said, well, this was batting practice, innit? We limped to about 85 on a 250 wicket. Peter was sort of on his way by then. I think Peter he'd lost them young. He didn't know how to look after them young lads. But every dog has his day. And we played Haslingden when I was captain, and Muscle sorted Bobby Grimshaw out. Bobby Grimshaw didn't play again after that. He frightened him to death, did Muscle.
I need to just talk a little bit about the times me and Shez had at playing police. I wasn't mad keen to play police cricket. All I ever wanted to do was play for Lowerhouse. But the standard of the police cricket was really quite really good, and you played on really good pitches. And sometimes you didn't have a choice. Shez played well before me with the likes of Dan and Chris Scott and Andy McNicholas and other players from other leagues who were top cricketers. So we go off and play, and you play through a regional tournament. So the North would play the Northwest, and then you play in the North, and then you'd play North versus South, and then you'd have a final. And we used to do the odd tour. And there were some good days there, Shez, weren't there? There were some good pictures and
some of the best days of our lives there.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, you'd have a tour.
Neil Gregson were a nice lad. Webby, you forgot about Webby, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I am. There's loads of people there, but people on the podcast possibly don't remember them. Gary Bolton and Hayes and all. Me and Shez were always a little bit. We weren't that bothered about it. Stan thought it was quite prestigious to play. But me and Shez would go along, and we'd both bat anywhere between probably 5, 6, 7, 8, and possibly 9. I'd bowl a little bit, Shez would bowl a little bit, but you're almost like a team of all-rounders. And we played in the semi-final, you think, Shez, of the...
Quarter-final, PAA Scotland.
Quarter-final in Scotland. So we'd got a coach up there. We'd gone up for, I think, at least 2 nights, if not 3 nights.
Two nights. We're
really looking forward to this. We'll get through to semi, and then we'll get another trip. It's really good cricket, and it's more trips away from work. I mean, it's Stan got out early on, another opening batter got out, and then Gary Bolton got out, all top players. And I think I went in at possibly 5 or 6, and it was a really good rock-hard wicket that seemed
green.
That seemed about and swung a little bit. But, if you got in, you'd be all right. So Shez with another wicket, and so we're probably 6 down now, 6 or 7. So Shez is coming at 8. When you came in at 6?
Yeah.
Right. And I just said to Shez, look, we played probably 60 overs per side. And I said, look, just hang around here. If we can get to 160, 160 and 200 without bowling attack, so let's just bat all the overs out. Right, Shez, I will. And I've never seen Shez as intense in my life. His eyes were spinning, and I kept saying to him every end of every over, every ball, just stay in. They won't bowl you on this track. If he's bowled it and he's going for the stumps, it'll swing. It's moving so much. Right, Jez, I will. So he's faced 2 or 3 overs, and they are maidens. And then these lads realise what our game is. We're just not going to take them on. And he's obviously a quality bowler. So he's running and bowled the biggest in swing you've ever seen. Shez has shouldered arms His arms have gone as high as he can. His back is stuck, pointing up to the moon. This ball's come back and hit him right in the bollocks.
With a huge clang.
Yes, into a metal box. And it was like foam round the outside. And he held his balls, and this ball went bong. All of the people who come to watch us and all our players are absolutely wetting themselves. But we got a few runs each, didn't we? And we ended up winning the game.
We did.
It was good fun with those tours, Shez. I don't know if you remember many of them. Did you?
I remember them all. Stan came out to the dressing room and said, Shez, you forgot this, and held the box up, remember? If you remember, Jez, on that trip, Stan, bless him, had decided they were going to take piss out of Brian Hotwood, our umpire, all the way there. And all the way there, he oined him. I went with 34 pence for that two-day trip. Stan's opening batting, and he's oined Brian to death. Third ball hits him. Like I said, it was seaming all over the shore. Hits him, top of his pad. They all go up. Hoppy nearly goes up with him. Is that how? That's how it stands.
Yeah, it was comical. That was. It was. And just one last little one from that trip. We went to this Courtbridge, I think it was called. The area.
Courtbridge Hilton.
Yeah, in this hotel. So the first night we go. We're all desperate to go out and have a pint. It's tea time, so we say to the receptionist, "Where's the nearest pubs?" And all she says to us is, "Dinnigadoon the hell."
Guess where we went? Guess where we went?
Down the hell.
Yeah, did we?
Good stories, Shez. There, right? Joe Martin, you must have something, right? Your uncle. I know you're scared to death of him. Is there anything you want to chat through or pick up on?
There's a couple of things. Obviously, Shez had a very similar role to Paul Stanley in that he brought a set of youngsters through. So in that group, there was Joe and Charlie and others, and Matt Stanley and Gav. What was it like captaining them, Uncle Ian?
Challenging. Gav was committed, wanted to do well, but I didn't know enough about the game to be able to talk him through whatever problems he had. He had some success in first team. He got a 50 at least. Johnny Russell, there you go. Joe, you've got a Worsley Cup. Have you got a Worsley Cup, Joe?
Two. I've got two.
And a league championship.
I've got a couple of them as well. Three of them, I think.
Charlie Cotton. I can't speak highly enough about Matthew Stansfield. To say he's uncoordinated is nothing short of lies. The only thing that keeps standing together is his skin, because the rest of him, that uncoordinated, that his body be all over the show. We start this season and he gets his team, and to be fair to Matt, when he wanted to, he just couldn't field. It was like watching somebody throw a wardrobe down a back street. It was just ridiculous. I used to be onto him all the time, saying, Stanley, just look like you. Make them look like you want to get the ball. Make them look like you're confident you're going to pick it up, because I know you're not. Yeah. So we're in dressing room, first game of season, and he says to me, and I'm saying to him, right, Frank's keeping wicket. We need to get ball into him. Nice, and every ball, it looks professional. Makes us look good. Makes us do this. Not 4 minutes later, first ball, standing at mid-wicket, picks it up, throws it back to the bowler. Thanks, Matt. Then later in the season, we played Haslingden away, just about to get another absolute tater in. Again, I've spoken to him before game. Stanley, I need you to concentrate. I'm going to make you feel that mid-off today. The right-handers, there's a good chance you're going to be coming ball, but it could look like you're going to get the ball. First ball, hits it, mistimes it straight to him, it hits him in the middle of chest before he even saw the ball coming. And after that, I just gave up. To be quite honest, just let him get on with him. As I said, you just have this tendency to fuck about, Stanley, if you remember. But other people were challenging. Back to the 80s, if you remember the Rocking Vicar Jezzy, was that were quite impressive at Rockstall. Non-fraught off, not so many. Bless said deserves a ball. We didn't have enough balls. Rusty's dismissal at Rottenstall, you might have played in that game where it bounced over his head. That was very, very, very funny. That was hilarious. They were all. I got the nickname as Captain Stammering because they just drove you to distraction. Because you'd be watching a game, they'd be playing that stupid little catch cricket outside dressing rooms. Do you know what I mean? Like muscle bowling little dobbers at Charlie and then hitting him and then catching them all going, hey! And you'd be like, we're batting. And things like that. But it's just ridiculous, the stuff they used to come out with. And then they'd start all singing songs and they'd say like Pearl Jam, Street Jam, Dot Jam, Ram Jam.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? None of them drunk. None of them bought a pint. So there were me, Ted, Gary Morehouse's friend, that Jerry Doe.
Jerry Doe.
Yeah, there were me, Jerry Doe, and Ted. They're all there on court throwing crusts at each other. You're like, how they've had children and discovered girls? It's just beyond me. It's nothing short of a miracle. It's just ridiculous. Because I see Russell now running around. He's still there with his goofy face on. Richard.
Were you there at Ramsbottom when Pete Gaynor got hit in the face with tennis ball? Changing rooms?
Yeah. That worked for me.
I were off for rain, I think, and
through his paper.
Pete's reading a broadsheet in changing room, and rest of us are pricking about, as you've alluded to, and someone bowled one at Charlie, and he's either got a collection box or a bat mallet in his hand, and he swiped this tennis ball and he nailed it, and it went straight through Pete's paper and hit him in the face, and he pulled his paper down and his glasses rang and everyone just got up one by one and walked out at the changing room because they didn't want to laugh in his face. Oh dear, that was funny.
Oh, bless him.
That was a funny day.
There were lots and lots of funny days. Can I just add that despite all tears that we've shed at Lowerhouse for people who've gone, and the happy days, sad days, and all that lot, and bless Craig and people that aren't with us and that never got a chance to fulfil the potential, I wouldn't have changed it for anything. They were the best years of my life. I loved every second of it. I cried in my kitchen when my wife told me she didn't want me to play ever again, and I can only say that long may the club continue, and you keep smiling, chaps.